Hello to the TUC meeting, 29th of April. Today we have our agenda to review the action items from last week, go over the dashboards with our items, and talk about any other business. So action items from last week. Create a community issue for the concourse CLA topic. This was something, Chris, you and Derek wanted to approach for the new concourse.
We're still waiting on final document from Broadcom on the concourse transfer, but David Stevenson said that is imminent as of last week. So I do expect that very soon. But that the CLA is stalled on that.
Okay, it's only to activate it, or how? Waiting for that document to activate.
Yeah, we need the actual document that transfers the intellectual property before we can have the CLA. So it should be soon. But yeah, waiting on Broadcom making our approvals. But David said last week, I talked to him on Thursday, and he said that I think was expected to even happen last week. So hopefully this week even, but we'll see.
Okay. So the idea was to create an issue about this and point to people that still something we are waiting for transparency. Let's say I will transfer this to next week. If we don't have a resolution, then I can create the action items. And if you say that most probably will be resolved, yeah, then we don't need to do anything. Okay, then we can go to the dashboard. So we have some PRs for people wanting to get contributors in our org. So Dennis is a new colleague at SAP. Okay, we have enough approvals. Then I can, everyone approved. Stephan is still on vacation. So okay. The next one is a similar one, but okay, still CLA is not signed. We have to wait here. I can ping the colleague. And this one is about a small improvement. Max noticed today that the link is broken in our roles docs. Actually, we introduced RFC for defining how working group leads promoted. And I asked him to just point to that RFC. The document here does not exist anymore. This one was something we had previous. Hi, Ruben.
Hi, sorry for being late.
All fine. We didn't have anything important. We are just right on time for approving the PR. Thanks. Okay. On the RFC side, we have the Noble-based stack and build packs RFC. I think most of the comments are resolved. I also had some suggestions. I don't know, they are still pending. Yeah, but all the asks has been addressed already. I think you can have a look. Most probably, it's today early to start the final comment period. I will say next week we can do this if all the suggestions are accepted here, or we have some comments on that. But the rest is resolved. The comments above are all addressed. Only I had some improvements. Or do we have anything else? No comments. Okay. RFC status. I didn't look into this. I think Noble is still waiting for the Garden release. Amelia, do you know whether this happened?
No, my colleague has been talking with Yochin yesterday. We hope to cut a release this week.
Oh, great, sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
Still the same status. And I don't think that we have any other updates here. On the issue side, nothing new. Okay, then we can continue with any other business.
Oh well,
So-
that's quick. I had a thing where we have a bunch of images on Docker Hub, and the Bosch team would like to move some of those to GitHub packages. So we have already the stem cell there, the Docker-based stem cell you can pull from GitHub. We would like to move some additional CI images there. I just wanted to mention it here as an FYI. I don't see any issues with it. It should simplify access management. That's currently like a bit of an issue with Docker, right? Docker Hub, we have a few accounts there, but it's, I don't know, not managed and integrated with our CI. So, yeah, any concerns, questions? Al?
It'd be like more kind of coordinated effort. So instead of just like reinventing bicycles, just making like base images, like we have kind of like some clear hierarchy of images, at least like base images on the GitHub, and again, just like approach this like in a more structured way, like than just like each team like individually reinventing bicycles. What do y'all think?
Yeah, so you mean like common CI images?
Yeah, exactly. Like just like at least just maybe like some have like some very, very like high level like base image, like with potentially like some tooling, like, or maybe like with some, again, just like controlled like image like that is just shared and up to date, like that all other work groups and teams could use for their needs, like for their CI needs, because eventually that translates into all the dependencies, like how we're testing, like, and how consistent all that.
Yeah, I'm worried about the coordination overhead, trying to make that work, right? Because I don't know, teams typically already like it's not that much work to keep updating an image, right? And like I believe at least as part of this effort, the Bosch team wants to at least consolidate within our working group a lot of these images, but like doing that across working groups, I don't know if that's worth it. To be honest, it's like quite a lot of coordination. We don't have that many content. Like we basically have this meeting right? So we would have to create an RFC, and then maybe, what are we going to do if you want to add an additional dependency? Have that go through an RFC? That feels like a bit much. Or are you proposing like a common repo with CI images or something? But then we don't
Yes,
have cross
potentially.
working group ownership figured out yet, right? So that's like, we have that similar problem with the the homebrew repo. That's also a bit like awkward, right? Like that pattern doesn't really work well. I mean, it's a good idea. I just see practical implications and making it quite difficult to pull off.
I agree, like the difference overhead, but also like one point of interest, like as we started running like our test workload on different CI environments, and I'm talking here about GitHub.com. I'm talking about like some like external like runners like for GitHub.com. I'm talking about Conkers. So the dream is like if containers like would be like more like standardized. So perhaps like all those like migrations like between all those different types of CIs would be like way more simplified and predictable.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like as a first step, we at least can start this effort and try it out, like just migrating some images over to GitHub, because it should at least make it easier to discover these images, right? Because they show up at the top level of the organization, right? So it's more clear that these things are actually being updated and they are part of what we want to maintain, instead of these, like we have all these different Docker Hub accounts that it's not clear which ones are actually being updated and maintained, right? And I think like if you want to adopt these types of shared images, right? Like if they are in the GitHub org, at least you know that they are being updated. That's at least, I think, the goal here.
Ruben, is there a price difference between the two?
We got this is a question for Chris Clark, but are we on the enterprise plan? I think we
We are on the
recently
enterprise plan, and seemingly we don't pay for GitHub Actions or anything.
Oh, we do.
Nice.
I mean,
Don't?
I looked at it says
thought-
we get a certain amount of free actions on the enterprise plan, but we're already way beyond that, and they aren't charging us.
They are not? Okay, because it showed up in the UI as like they are charging us quite a bit. But I don't know if that's like actually being charged.
Well, it hasn't yet, so
Okay, we'll see.
yeah. So this is a hot topic. I talked last week with Broadcom a little bit about this, and yeah, I get this sort of a related topic. I was thinking we like with the hosting spend of moving various things over in GCP, and with that being an option, you know, I sort of think we need like either a CI working group or like maybe a committee, since working groups mean something a little different in Cloud Foundry, but some sort of like monthly meeting where we take a look at costs. Also maybe have a couple people that are in charge of like making sure we're using like proper security protocols, things like that for our GCP, AWS, Azure accounts, right? Have some ownership over that in the community. It certainly would be someone from Broadcom involved, someone from SAP involved, and then other community members as wanted or needed. But I think something like this is probably going to make sense, because this is going to be a pretty big factor in the budget for CFF, I think, forever now. So we need to get a hold of this for cost reasons, and I think it just makes sense for there to be something more structured. And at least as we're trying to bring these costs down this year, I think like a monthly meeting would be good for that. So we have a governing board meeting tomorrow. I'm going to talk about this there, but ultimately I think this would be something that kind of springs out of the TAC. So yeah, I just wanted to get all your takes on that.
That makes sense. I would love for it to be a distinct group's responsibility.
Yeah, I don't think it should just be the TAC dealing with that. It should be like a a working group, although we don't need to set it up as with the way we have working groups set up generally in Cloud Foundry Foundation is that they're like actual Linux Foundation projects, sub-projects. I don't necessarily we need to do that. But there will be some assets, and yeah, I think a monthly meeting cadence is good because then we can, review what the spend was from the previous month at that meeting. And at this point I'm not sure, there's 6 or 7 AWS accounts and probably over 10 GCP accounts, a dozen or so GCP accounts, a couple Azure accounts. And then there's Docker Hub going to that as well. And then GitHub. So some sort of group that sort of takes on the responsibility for managing that, mitigating costs. I could also bring an LFIT too, if we want someone from the LF to be involved in that. And there may be, they will manage stuff like this for us for cost. There's things like that might be an option, but.
Yeah, definitely sounds reasonable. Also, the proposal, Greg, I think, posted its ARI working group Slack channel to reduce somehow guidelines. So maybe the first step could be to compile some guidelines how costs can be reduced. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Stop testing.
Be confident in your code and just
Yeah, just write better code. Don't test. Great.
You have Copilot now. Why you need to
Yeah,
test?
AI will just take over.
Yeah, okay. But maybe you have some more clear after the board meeting tomorrow, so we can talk next time. More concrete. Yeah.
Right. I probably won't be able to make the talk meeting next week because I'll be at a different event next week. But and then I don't know if there'll be a talk call the following week because Cloud Founder Day is the day after. So,
Yeah,
but we will talk about this very soon after I get some feedback from the governing board.
Yeah, sounds good. Also, CFD is a good opportunity.
Yeah, we can definitely chat about this, and we'll be at the Broadcom office. So
yeah. So talking about CFD, I got the question from people here whether the virtual stream option will be available.
We're not doing the live stream this time around. Basically, there was very low. There wasn't a lot of turnout at the live stream at the last event. It does have extra cost, and all of the videos get posted, usually 48 hours later. So it's kind of tough to recreate the actual community feeling on the live stream as well, unless you have someone really monitoring it and then asking questions. But last time there was only a handful of people that tuned in, so we didn't think it was worth the cost at this point. Now that we're pretty far from the pandemic, but as I said, all of the videos do get posted usually within 48 hours. So.
Okay, then yeah. Another question I got. So people, at least one stakeholder we have was looking into CFP for CFD Europe. They are more from application development side, and they didn't see any suggested topic in the CFP regarding that application development side. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly welcome. I think we could add that into the suggestions are just suggestions, but we could add that into the CFP guide.
They were not sure whether they should go to submit something or.
Yeah, I mean, it should be related to Cloud Foundry in some way. It's just
it's Cloud Foundry. They want to talk about health checks, experience with readiness health check, and all the different kinds of health checks we have.
Yes, that should be fun.
Yeah, it will be great if we can add something in that direction so people just move.
Ram, could you take an action item to update the CFP for Europe with that? Just add in app development and like that.
Sure.
Thanks, Ram.
Thank you.
Can you just repeat what that
Yeah, no problem.
update the CFP to?
Yeah, just update the CFP to include like CF application development.
Yeah, sure.
A suggestion, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, CI working group, most probably was the topic you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we more or less covered that, but I'll bring that up at the governing board meeting tomorrow. And then hopefully we can stand that up pretty quickly because it's with all the new we're like I still get pinged about other resources we need to add, and I'm not exactly sure what the 8 projects we just moved over are going to cost. Got an estimation around $50,000 a year, which is like not massive, but definitely is significant for us at this point. So yeah, I'd love to get this stood up, sometime, have a meeting sometime at the end of next month, maybe.
Infrastructure for integration test environment.
Yeah, I wrote that. I'm kind of curious, like what options are available because we have some Shepherd environments that we're using from Broadcom infrastructure, like Shepherd v2, like that this team made available to the internet. But it seems like we're just undergoing some migration, and I'm not sure like if they'll be available like in the horizon of next couple months. So I'm just curious, like first, like if that's the right forum to discuss this type of things, and maybe like some infrastructure work group or someone like might be more helpful. And second, what options are available, like in how to approach that, like for open source components, how to get like some test environments. I'm talking about like just like small deployments of Cloud Foundry CF deployment that we can run integration tests against.
Yeah, I know that my working group has switched off completely from Shepherd environments, and we're now spinning up our own environments. And I know the CAP-B working group, RE working group, also builds their own Bosch lights. And so we have concourse tasks that do this. Although now that I'm saying this out loud, I don't think CLI uses concourse. Do you use GitHub? You might be well, I can share what we do in concourse, and at least it will be the steps for how to use Weibel to spin up Bosch light pooling.
Right. But all this whatever like this concourse spins up, like where it is hosted, like it is like on GCP, or that's like some special like location.
No, we're hosting it on GCP.
I would suggest, like, can't you just use Docker CPI on
Yeah,
GitHub
that's what I would
Actions?
love to. Yes.
Yeah, like get a beefy instance, and then because GitHub Actions we get for free, right? I just looked it up. We get it gets discounted like fully, so that's like.
Oh, are you suggesting just to run like this like full like Docker CPI inside of GitHub Actions?
Yeah, like if we can get that to work, right? Like then we could do a lot of testing there. Like I've done. I mean, basically all the Shepherd v2 stuff that we are doing, that's all test light, which is basically Docker CPI, which I've spent a lot of time on. That's why that works. But that should you should have a Docker daemon on GitHub Actions. So it's just a matter of tweaking all of that to make it work. But if we get that to work, we could move a lot of tests onto GitHub Actions and stop deploying actual environments on GCP. Which should, I mean, this is all like a preamble to that group that needs to be created. But like this would be one of those efforts to like, yeah. So if you want to spend a bit of time on that, I think Beyhan also posted some of his notes on what he did with Docker CPI in some PR, I believe on the Docker CPI itself, or was it on Bosch deployment?
It was on the Docker CPI, I think I have.
But that was trying to get it to work on a Mac M1, I believe, and that is really hard. But like GitHub Actions should be Linux based, right? So then you're
Right.
just gonna have trouble with potentially the C group v2 stuff, right? So it might be that GitHub Actions is using Linux with C groups v2, while we still only work with v1, but that might have changed in the meantime, right? I think there's work on the Garden side to make it work with v2. I think we did that for Noble. So it might be that it just works and needs some tweaks here and there. But yeah, that would be definitely an area I would recommend investing or looking into. Just this week, I got Docker. That's not committed upstream yet, but one other issue with Docker is the fact that if you use Docker CPI, it won't like enforce limits on these VMs, or like it's just containers, and it like inherits the limits from the host. But I got that working as well. There's another technology to use for that. It's what's it? LXCFS, which is like a fuse file system that you can map into your containers to make it look more like VMs. So that's free on your, like if you run free on in your container, it actually shows the free memory that's assigned to the container. Stuff like that.
Sounds fantastic. Actually, like as a matter of fact, like yesterday I was talking to Nishad Mathur about even like making it available like for local Dockers. Basically, like so people could use as the same like Dockerized CPI just to spin up like local environment.
Nishad just transitioned or moved to the Bosch team, and he worked on Shepherd v2 with me. So all the local infrastructure stuff or the Docker-based testing stuff we did was with Nishad. So he should also have like a lot of context on this.
Right, but again, it sounds like still like this is not something that just like works out of box, but it feels like also like extremely valuable like for teams to have ability to run pretty much like full CFD inside of their Docker on the local machine. That would just like help like with both like development, and also that would pretty much like standardize kind of like expectations. Basically, like you can just run the same like integration tests like on the local machines and inside the CI. So I would also would like to if possible to invest to get that, and to share like how to use that like with more teams.
We don't determine investment, right? We just give guidance, and then it's up to the member companies to figure out if they want to actually do that investment. So bring it up with your leadership. We are not your leadership. We're just here as wise people or something.
I'm also saying like I'm recommending. I'm not saying like just like
no.
Get a, like someone should
like
do that.
Definitely makes sense, right? Like this is something that makes sense. But let's form that group first, and then I don't know what authority they have, but at least then we can have more.
But is this like a CI group concern, like especially like the second point about to just like local development? Because that's more like sounds like some developer experience or dynamics kind of like this type of things. But also like it seems like this particular project like very much shared like with the CI potential CI work group kind of work.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, this could also potentially be interesting for CFD itself, right? To do initial validation on the Docker CPI. If that can work on GitHub Actions, although they have their pipelines on Concourse, so it's like,
That would save tons of money like on release engineering team.
Okay, I pasted the PR that Ruben mentioned in the chat. If that helps you. But sounds great. I will be great if we can even get this working locally. The local CF experience never been
you also
so
just
easy.
never have upgraded your Mac. You should stay on
Yes,
Intel Mac.
Yeah.
That's a really valid kind of thing, like because like all new Macs like are ARM based, like, and we should be aware of that. I'm
No,
kind of
mine
curious,
is
like
not.
what's
Until mine is like I'm trying to hold off on upgrades. Like I'm still on an Intel-based Mac and it's perfect.
The
same.
same here. I also until I am forced to do that.
Yes.
But that also rises like about like server side things, right? Like I mean, like
Yeah.
adoption of ARM-based Linuxes, like an adoption like
Yeah,
of
but like
ARM-based
that's a
like
whole other
servers.
can of worms, right? Like if we want to recompile OFCF to run on ARM, I mean, maybe, but it's like, yeah.
Well, maybe like that's not like overnight or project like, but that's something like that we should be aware of, like, and that might be like a North Star, like kind of
Yeah,
way
but
to
that's
estimate.
again, right? Like this matters. Like it's a question of if there's a company, a member company that's interested in sponsoring that, like actually doing that type of work, right? And then you
Yeah.
end up with an RFC. If that's not the case, if nobody is interested in deploying this, we're not gonna build it.
Hmm. Yeah. Is there any other topic you want to discuss? Doesn't seem to be the case. Then, yeah. Most probably, as Chris mentioned, we need to cancel the TOC meeting on 13th of May. Or at least I will be traveling at that day. So the CF days. Yeah. Do you? Seems like an agreement. Is this something you can do, Ram, to cancel the event on 13th of May? Okay, I will write Ram in Slack. Okay. Then we are done for today. Thanks for your time. See you next time and take care. Bye-bye.